shine a light in those dark places where women live in fear and in silence. She is a mother, she is a grandmother, and she will not be silenced. Please welcome her to the stage, Claire O'Connor.
Thank you for coming today, and thank you to all the organisers across Australia who were determined, as a result of the last 3 weeks of disgusting information that we heard from the Canberra Parliament, determined that you will not be silenced. Every single one of you here knows somebody, or is indeed a person, who has been the victim of gender-related violence and unfairness. It permeates every single part of our lives. It affects men, it affects women, it affects children, and it has to stop. We know that 40% of you will be the victim of domestic violence. We know that every 6 days in Australia, a woman will die at the hands of a partner or a former partner. We know that the prisons, the female prisons, are full of women who have been the victims of sexual and physical violence before the age of 15. The statistic is up around 90%. When you harm us, that is what happens. You ruin our lives. There are many women out there, many women in Adelaide today, who told me they could not come. They were too heartbroken. We know that this topic is the most sensitive, the most heart-rending topic. Will my daughter, will my granddaughter, will my friends, will my relatives, will women be killed simply because of gender? Will they be raped simply because of gender? Your clothes do not cause rape. Your alcohol does not cause rape. Rapists cause rape. Today, many men support us. You know, gender inequity harms everybody. And you know, you men all know that you have seen things that you have walked past. You have stayed silent when you know that women have been harmed. You have not assisted. But it's time for you to take over, for you to say, enough is enough. It's not just us that have to do this work. We all have to do this. And that is why we are mad with our government. That is why we're cross with our Prime Minister. Because we were told by Christian Porter to imagine what it would be like to be accused of something. I want you to think for a moment. The position of the Prime Minister had been, imagine for a moment what it was like to be the victim of a sexual assault, and to then ask the people in the room to imagine what it's like. Because I can tell you that only 1% of people who have been sexually assaulted in our community end up with a conviction. That is because we are not believed. That is because we are doubted at a police station. We are doubted in relation to the way that the responses are. Well, what did you say to provoke him? What were you wearing? How much had you had to drink? Should you have been walking on your own? It's time that we were safe. We are not safe. Our worksite is dangerous. Our streets are dangerous. Our homes are dangerous. There is nowhere that a woman can go where her gender does not make her a victim. As I'm a barrister, I want to talk briefly about this furphy about the rule of law. It is not the case that you cannot have an inquiry, that you cannot have an inquest, that you cannot have the professional body governing lawyers examine you even when a police officer decides that a charge is not going to be proceeded with. It is within the rule of law. The Law Society of New South Wales issued a statement saying it's within the rule of law to conduct inquiries. Professor Ben Saul said it's within the rule of law. We have had prominent Australians come out and demand an inquiry. Mr Gleeson, who's a former Solicitor General, we've had Mr Turnbull, the former Prime Minister, Mr Rudd, the former Prime Minister. It's not party specific. So we know that there could be an inquiry. And what did we learn this morning? On the day when the whole country is meeting for this topic, including in Canberra, we learned that Mr Porter is suing the ABC and the journalists. People are entitled to sue. If he believes he's been defamed, he's entitled to sue. But it proves the rule of law is on his side. It proves there are mechanisms available. And it proves also that we have rights in place to ensure that anyone falsely accused of anything can exercise a right to silence. I want to pay particular respect today to those women here, and I know some of you, and those women who will be listening, who can't be here through pain, who have been the victim of not being believed. Many of you have been believed, but many of you, I know, have not been believed. And I feel embarrassed and ashamed about my profession and the legal system as a whole, because I know that it can be difficult. I know that it's sometimes a he said, she said, and the decision's made not to charge. I know that you have been the victim of crimes and you have not got justice. We don't need moments of silence. We've had silence for generations. We need moments of yelling out and screaming, enough! People have to be accountable for their behaviour. We're accountable. We women are accountable. We're made to feel the blame when things go wrong. And I think that every single person here has a personal story. In the rider that they asked us to go through, they said, before you speak, imagine talking about your own personal stories. I mean, I've been the victim of violence in a relationship. I've been the victim of sexual abuse in my employment and sexual abuse outside my employment. But I'm not alone. There would be very, very few voices here that would tell me that they have not suffered from some aspect of prejudice. And we really need to think about the inquiries that we've had already. There's been a very, very good inquiry with 55 recommendations that came down from the Human Rights Commission. It explained how to make a workplace safe. Every single one of those recommendations, which I read last week, every single one will make the workplace safer. We need to demand action from our politicians in relation to these things. We need to demand action in relation to those workers who are protected. They do not have to be investigated. Parliamentarians are that. They really justice above the law. Look what happened in the High Court. We need to respect the fact that nobody is hide behind this law. Nobody can take advantage. We have to do this for the next generation. Educate the men in this world that their privilege is something they can no longer take for granted. It has